Hello and welcome to Shannon Gardens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So today I am focusing on planting my spring bulbs in containers, and I'm doing that with a couple of different methods. First, I am doing more of a stacking method with my bulbs in one container. You may have heard of the phrase bulb lasagna, and so that is the method that I will be doing in one container, and I wanted to show you guys that process. And then in a couple of other containers, I'm simply just planting the same type of bulb in those containers, and that way I'll just have that one type of flower in various colors in that one container. So I've got a couple of different methods going on here, and I will show you guys that process. Now, I did want to preface and say that I have already pre-filled my containers with new potting soil, and I'm making sure to use potting soil because I am planting in containers. I have also mixed in my fertilizer. Now, I am using bone meal, and really that's just because that's what I learned years ago to plant when I plant bulbs, and that's what I've always used. However, there are a lot of bulb fertilizers out there on the market, and you can choose whichever one you prefer to use. I've already mixed that into my soil though, and so now I'm pretty much set up to just go ahead and get these bulbs planted. So I wanted to go ahead and show you guys some of the different bulbs I am planting. So first I have my paper white bulbs here, which I absolutely love. And then I have a couple of different varieties of daffodils. This one I've never planted before. This is the Daffodil Replete, and I got this at Walmart, I believe, but look at that color. I just thought that those were so pretty, so I'm very anxious to give these a try. I've got my crocus, and those are just beautiful. I love the different colors there with the purple and the white and the stripes. And then I have this huge bag of daffodils, and these are different colors here. You can see, I believe I got this at Home Depot, and there's quite a bit here, so it may be more than I need for my containers, and I may be putting some of these in the ground. We'll just see how that goes. And then I also have ranunculus. Now, I have never planted these before, but look at how pretty those are. And I just thought I would give it a try. It's something I've never done before. One thing I did want to mention, on the back of these instructions, it did say to pre-soak your ranunculus. So I've already done that. I've got those soaking and they are ready to go. Now, another thing I did want to point out is if you look on the back of your bulb sleeves, that has a picture on the front, and then it'll usually have your instruction in the back, and it will tell you at what depth they need to be planted and how to plant them and when they're anticipated to bloom. And so just make sure to look at those as well, and that will provide you with handy instructions as you're planting. Now, one other thing I did want to mention, I just find this very handy, is I have this hand shovel here, and it's got different measurements along here, and it just makes it easy for me to be able to reference the depth that the bulb needs to go without any kind of guesswork. I can just look here and see what depth my soil's at and then plant the bulb from there. So I find it very easy to use, so I wanted to make sure to point that out to you guys as well. All right, and then the last thing, you may notice that I have some violas and pansies behind me. When I plant containers, I do sometimes prefer to put violas or pansies on the very top just to add some color while we're waiting for those bulbs to come in. And so I've got a few here, and I will be doing that, and I'll show you guys that as well. All right, I think that that's it, so let's get to it. Okay, so I have my first container ready here to plant, and I will be doing that stacking method or the plant lasagna. And there are a couple of things I wanted to mention. First, I'm going to be starting with the bulbs that need to be planted the deepest first. And so that's going to be my daffodils, and these are also the last blooming of the bulbs that I am planting in my container. So I will plant these first. Now, when you're planting the bulbs, make sure that your pointy side is sticking up. This side is going to go into the soil. So you just want your pointy side up like that. Now, one other thing to mention is that when you are planting your bulbs, you can actually place these closer together in the containers than you would if you were planting in the ground. So I'm just going to place these here and get these ready for this next layer of soil, and then my next layer of bulbs as well, which will be the paper whites. And then we're going to end with the crocuses because those will be planted the at 3 inches, which is the shallowest planting, and they will be the first to bloom as well. All right, so I've got my daffodils here placed. I'm gonna cover this with some soil and then get my paper whites planted, cover that with some soil, get the crocuses planted, and we'll be good to go. So now I've got my paper whites here, and again, I'm just gonna place them in with the pointed side up. All right, and then add another layer of soil. And then last are my crocuses. I'm actually looking at this now and thinking that I might have needed to get more, but that's okay. We're just gonna make do with what we have. Now I'm gonna get this covered with the last of the soil and we are good to go. Okay, so I have this container, which is just going to be filled only with my daffodils in my different colors. So I've got it placed at the correct height, and I'm just again going to put the pointy side up and place these in the container. Now with this container, I'm actually going to, because I'm not doing the lasagna method or the layering method, I am going to fill it with soil, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the violas at the top, and that way I do have some seasonal color in there until these bloom in the spring. I'm in zone 7B in the southeast US, and violas and pansies generally last through the winter for us, so that's something that will give me color throughout the season, and then these will grow up tall around it in the spring, and they'll have that underlayer of the pansies, which will look so pretty in the spring as well. Okay, so I think that's going to give a good display. I may poke a couple more in there. I certainly have plenty in this big bag, so I think I can get a few more maybe around the edges. Okay, I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and cover this with soil, and then I'll show you guys adding the violas on the top. All right, so I've got my violas here, and let me show you guys. Look at how cute that is, the little purple and yellow, and that will be underneath the daffodils. And again, these are the colors that I planted in this one. So these violas will be underneath these as they come up in the spring. And I just think that color playing off of each other is going to be very, very pretty in the spring. And I have another little pot that I'm just going to put daffodils in as well. This is just a pot that I've had sitting around, and I figured that I had some extra daffodils, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in here too. And it's lightweight, so I can just place it once it starts blooming. I can place it on a tabletop or anywhere I want to, and it's not too heavy for me to maneuver around. So I'm just going to go ahead and place these daffodils in here as well, and then I'm going to put my other pansies that I purchased on top of this and just have a little bit of color there throughout the winter season as well. And then finally, I've got my pot for my ranunculus. I had to reference and see how to plant these. I wasn't quite sure since this is the first time planting, and as you can see, little stems or roots pointed down there. So let me show you guys. This is after soaking. That's what it looks like, and so I'll just be planting that pointed down like that. I've got all these laid out, and I'm just going to cover that with soil, and I think that's it for those. So I wanted to show you guys what I could of what we planted today. Unfortunately, a lot of what we can see won't come up until the springtime, but I do have these pansies planted in the same container as some of my daffodils, and so those daffodils will come up in the spring, and then these pansies will be underneath, and they have the little yellow centers, which will tie in nicely with the daffodils that are planted. I think that'll look really, really pretty. And then we have this container that has the violas planted, and then the daffodils are planted in as well. And so as those daffodils come up in the spring, we'll have the bed of violas underneath. And again, with the yellow and the orange and the purple, I think it's just going to play so nicely off the daffodils and look really, really nice paired together. But in the interim, it provides some color over the winter until those daffodils do come in. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm so excited and can't wait to see those bulbs in the springtime. So thank you for joining me again. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, happy gardening and goodbye.